Welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have you all here. Whoops, I'm already jumping right in. So happy to have you here. As I mentioned in the email, I'm going to have everybody off screen just for ease of recording so that this can be a replay for you as well as anyone else that you want to send it off to. But please use the chat. So if you have questions, I'll get a little announcement that you have a question so we can certainly stop in the middle of the presentation and for sure at the end. I want to open it up. I want to answer any and all questions that you have because this is, gosh, if you're in perimenopause, menopause, go ahead and give me a reaction. Give me a thumbs up if you are personally dealing with perimenopause or menopause. I know I am. So you should be able to find on the bottom reactions. Some chat, so maybe not. Okay. So we've got one through the chat coming in. Thought there should be reactions, but you might not be seeing those. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. But this is a rocky road. We're going to talk about what's going on during these life transitions in a woman's body. So what's happening hormonally, what's happening metabolically. We're going to talk about the top three. And that was tough. It was tough for me to come down to just three because there's so many things that we do need to be aware of and you need to shift a little bit. But we're going to talk about three kind of non-negotiables. And then we'll talk about the Menopause Transformation program that is coming up in October. So there is different cohorts. I'm just going to bring this down to the side. I want to make sure that I catch your questions if you bring that up. So then we'll have the time for a formal Q&A. But again, as I mentioned, feel free to ask questions. I'll try to keep my eye on the chat as well so that we can address your questions as we're diving into specific topics. All right, so let's talk about the hormonal changes. What is happening? Now, it's not this simplified, but if we think about premenopause, perimenopause, now known as the menopausal transition into menopause, premenopause, you just see more of a regular cycle. So we tend to know what to expect in regards to when is our cycle going to come, how heavy is it going to be, what type of symptoms am I going to have. It's going to change month to month for many women, but it tends to be a little more regulated. Whereas in perimenopause, we really liken it to a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs. It's very erratic. It's hard to know what's coming around the corner. And then we have menopause. Not that you're flatlined by any means, but hormonally, now our hormones tend to level off. So again, a time of I know what to expect because here's where my levels are. So let's talk about the three stages. So there are actually three stages. We've got the perimenopause or menopausal transition, we've got menopause, and we have postmenopause. And I'm going to use menopause as an easier way to think about menopause and post. So with this, we have to be aware, and I think that's why you guys are here tonight, is health providers are not trained. It's not their fault. They don't get this type of education and training unless they are specifically seeking it out. So when we go to the doctor, I've even gone to the doctor for issues. I'm like, oh yeah, that's menopause. Things that we just get blindsided by. So we don't get any guidance. Are just told, hey, this is aging, this is normal, you just have to deal with it. Or maybe we get improper guidance. And I think one of those real common improper guidances is it must be depression. Let's put you on an antidepressant. We have a lot of hormonal changes that change every part of our body. We'll talk about that tonight. So the menopausal transition, what we fondly know as perimenopause, is when our ovarian follicles start to reduce. We've actually got two phases, early and late, and hormones are different in each of those. This period tends to start in our mid 40s, but it has absolutely started in women's 30s. So we can't just say, hey, you're in your 30s. It can't be the menopausal transition or perimenopause. It absolutely can. And there's reasons why. And it can last 10 to 15 years. The average is about 4, but it can last a decade or more. And that's why I just tell my women clients, hold on to your hats because it's going to be a rocky road, but we're going to work to level it off smooth those bumps. So let's look at the early and late phases of the menopausal transition. In the early phase, so when you're just entering this menopausal transition, we tend to have higher estrogen levels. In fact, up to 3 times what it ran pre-menopause. And that level is going to fluctuate wildly from month to month. So, in regards to testing hormones in the early menopausal transition, we just have to know that whatever our hormones are this month, it could be significantly different than next month or 3 months down the road. So, they do change quite a bit. But as a general rule, estrogen higher. And with that estrogen higher, we're going to look at how that imbalance of estrogen progesterone happens, which is called estrogen dominance. And so now our cycles are becoming irregular. They're varying in duration, give or take 7 days. This is oftentimes where women are like, I have my period more than I don't. I feel like I'm cycling every week. So we do have heavier periods. We have more frequent periods. We have breast pain. We have irritability, and that's because of those hormonal shifts. Now, when we shift towards that later stage of menopausal transition, that estrogen starts to decline. Now we're noticing, oh, I missed a period. Or, gosh, I had one, it was 3 months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. And really interesting because to be menopausal, you have to have 12 consecutive months of no menstrual cycle. And there are women who get to 11 months, like, yes, I'm there. And then they get a cycle. So we never really know in this phase because it's so erratic. But our symptoms in this stage tend to be more hot flashes, night sweats, depression because of that declining estrogen. Then menopause, as I just stated, it's actually one point in time where you have 12 consecutive months of no menstrual cycle. That is menopause. And it's actually termed the second puberty. The average age today in America is 50 to 52, but normal is anywhere between 45 and 55. Now, it's before 45, we have to start think of something else is up. So if it wasn't surgical menopause, like you had to have a hysterectomy, maybe you got cancer and you had to have chemotherapy, those things can stop your cycles. It could also be toxicity. So toxicity has been shown to cause earlier menopause. So now we're suffering debilitating symptoms and we have new risk for disease, which we'll talk about. Postmenopause, all the time after that 12-month in time period that is actually menopause. And what's really important is menopause is at least 3 decades because if we're entering it 50, 51, 52, but anywhere from 45 to 55, we've got at least 30 years to go. And why not have that be as vibrant as possible? So we don't want to have to suffer these debilitating symptoms for 30 years. And the good news is we can get ourselves out of any hole. So that's the good news about our body. Our body is able to heal. We just need to have the right resources. And what heals one woman's body can be completely different than the next woman's body. So the hormone web, we have to be aware of this because when we're thinking menopause and perimenopause, we're thinking estrogen, progesterone. So that's our gonadal hormones and including testosterone, which we as women do have quite a bit of as well. The hypothalamus pituitary in our brain is the command center. It talks to all of these systems and regulates all of our hormones. So we also have to think about the thyroid. We have to think about our adrenals that are creating our major stress hormone, cortisol. We have to think about our pancreas, which releases insulin. And we're going to talk about why all of that is important. But what I want you to see is you can see where all of these hormones are interconnected. It's like a web. So if you pull on that web, you're not going to just affect one hormone system. You're going to have at least two, maybe three, maybe all four systems that are now not functioning to the level you prefer it to be. And when we talk about hormone balance, it all starts with cortisol. We in this phase of life are less stress resilient, and 80% of hormone imbalance during menopause is related to cortisol. So we have to know, how do I mitigate the stress response in my body? How can I build that stress resiliency? Because we can't always get rid of the stress, but how do we build that resiliency against the stress? And then you can see the insulin, the thyroid, and the sex hormones. So let's go a little bit more. So prevalence of stress is ubiquitous. I have clients almost every week, women telling me, hey, give me a couple weeks, give me a month. This major project will be behind me. This major family stressor will be behind me. I'll be good to go. Like, no, no, no. Let's check in with reality because as soon as that one's gone, guess what? You got another one waiting for you around the corner, if not two or three. Stress is there. There are so many different faces of stress and it affects us significantly, physically, psychologically. Up to 90% of why we go to the doctor, stress related. And as I mentioned, that is the foundation of all hormone imbalance. And midlife women are not as stress resilient, meaning that we are going to feel the effects of it a lot more intensely. I've had my husband even say that. I was like, what is going on? Like you're just like on edge. Like you have like ADD, ADHD. You've never been that way before. Like, welcome to menopause. This is, and it can be hard for our loved ones to really understand when they're used to us in a certain way things change. And we just have to first acknowledge it, but then know how can I help mitigate, resolve, calm it down if needed. And with that higher cortisol, we're going to notice more hot flashes, more night sweats, cardiovascular concerns because stress, what does it do? It's preparing you for fight or flight. So your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. So, I mean, that's a lot more stress on the cardiovascular system. Risk of osteoporosis, muscle loss, because cortisol is catabolic. That means it breaks down our body's systems. So, we're going to break down muscle, we're going to break down bone, visceral adipose tissue. So that deep abdominal fat that surrounds our abdominal organs, we have 4 times the receptors for cortisol there. So this is what we're going to be talking about with the metabolic imbalance in just a moment, but that's one of the most common symptoms that women are so frustrated with is this what I fondly call the menopause, where we get this little body fat layer below the belly button. It's like, where did that come from? Part of that is going to be cortisol imbalance. So, adrenaline is our first responder. So, that's what's physically preparing us to fight or flight. So, it's increasing the heart rate, blood vessel constriction, shallow, quick breathing. And if that stress persists, that's when cortisol kicks in. And that is going to mobilize our blood sugar, our glucose, to fuel the muscles to fight or flight. Now, the thing is, it doesn't matter what the stressor is. It could be traffic, it could be a project deadline, it could be a fight with your significant other. Those aren't things that we can or should flee or fight from, but the body doesn't know the difference. So you're preparing for that. So you're releasing the glucose to fuel your body to do that. You don't need it. Every time you release glucose, what do you release? You release insulin. So insulin is a hormone whose job is to drive it into the cells to use it for energy, but you don't need it. So now insulin starts building up in your bloodstream. You become more insulin resistant and you're going to start storing more fat in the midsection again. So that's an insulin resistant picture. What about the thyroid? So the primary functions of our thyroid during menopause are to regulate metabolism and energy. That helps us manage our weight, regulates heart rate, body temperature, brain function. All of those start shifting in this transition. And the signs and symptoms of thyroid dysfunction actually mimic those of perimenopause and menopause. So it's super important for all women to get screened in this stage of life, provided maybe they've never had hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. Well, now we need to check. We need to make sure they're not dealing with any type of thyroid dysfunction because obviously there's a lot of critical functions that it plays in a woman's body. So in that case, we need to look at not just TSH. Like if you go to your doctor, hey, can you test my thyroid? Sure, we'll do TSH. That's just your brain talking to your thyroid. It's not telling us what hormones are being produced, what hormones are being converted. T3 is your most metabolically active form and it has to be converted in the liver and kidneys. from T4 and then your antibodies. So antibodies are traditionally not checked. And if they are, they're only checked once. And if they're high, it's like, oh, they're always going to be high. You've got Hashimoto's or you've got Graves'. The majority of thyroid dysfunction is autoimmune, but we're missing it. We're missing it because we're not getting those antibodies tested. And I've seen many women with perfect TSH, free T4, free T3, but their antibodies are sky high. So we've got to get the whole picture. Here's the sex hormones. So this is between the ages of 35 and 50. We've got a 35% drop in estrogen and a 75% drop in progesterone. So this is that unopposed balance between the two sex hormones, creating what's called estrogen dominance. Estrogen is going to trigger the growth of our female organs. So that's why, you might feel more fibrocystic in the breast. You might have uterine fibroids. You might have ovarian cysts. You notice that you have heavier periods if you're still in the perimenopause. Even breast size. I just had a woman who is going through the perimenopausal stage, and she went from like a size B cup to a double D. So that's absolutely estrogen. So we've really got to see, how do we help metabolize and clear that estrogen during this period in time. So it's all about balance. And part of this is because, think about estrogen. We make it not only in our ovaries, and once they start to peter out, then it's our a little bit in our adrenals, but our fat cells, which we're building as we go through this transition. And then we're also exposed to a lot of estrogen mimickers in the environment. And maybe we're taking birth control, maybe we're taking hormone replacement. So there's a lot of estrogen that is coming at us, but progesterone, unless we're supplementing it, that is getting stolen to make cortisol. So again, we talked about the cortisol response. So we are already pulling away from progesterone to make this cortisol in response to the stresses. Progesterone is our calming hormone. So we're going to feel more relaxed when we have adequate levels of progesterone, and that's by stimulating the release of GABA. When progesterone drops, we're going to notice we might feel a little more anxious, might feel a little bit down and depressed. We might notice that we're fluctuating between the two. So the mood swings are like that roller coaster. Memory loss, sleep disturbances. When estrogen drops in late menopausal transition and menopause, we, again, as I mentioned, we're going to primarily make it through our fat cells. Our fat cells carry an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase is converting testosterone to estrogen. So not only are we, giving ourselves some more estrogen, possibly in this menopausal, postmenopausal stage, which can be protective in some ways, but we're stealing from progesterone or testosterone to do that. Testosterone not only helps keep our libido and sex drive up, but it keeps our muscle strength, our muscle building, muscle performance, our energy up. So what we're noticing, we have a higher sympathetic, which is like your accelerator of the nervous system. We have a lower parasympathetic, which is the brake of the nervous system. So more hot flashes and night sweats, more insomnia, depression, fatigue. All right, so here's why we have well over 100 different symptoms possible in perimenopause and menopause. We have estrogen receptors everywhere in our body, from the breast and uterus, the ovary, the bone, the liver, the adipose tissue, the brain, the bladder, the ovary, the colon, the brain, the adipose tissue, immune system. So we've got two different types of estrogen receptors. So here's just a sampling of the symptoms that are possible. As I mentioned, there's like 100 different types, and we all have different degrees of intensity and also duration. Some, feel like I had one hot flash and I was done. I'm fine. Whereas others are like, oh my gosh, I am still battling hot flashes like 12 years later. So it's different from woman to woman for so many reasons. A lot of what we already talked about. But you can see in regards to the red, your hot flashes and night sweats, vaginal dryness, the painful sex, the low sex drive, sleep disruptions and fatigue, mood changes, the menopause, the weight gain, muscle and joint pain, urinary urgency and frequency are some of the most common ones. So we can't close our eyes to the heart, to the health risks, because we got plenty of symptoms, right? To manage. Like, how am I going to just get myself back to functioning on a day to day. Because even a lot of the joint issues, a lot of gluteal tendinopathy, frozen shoulders are common. And that's going to impact your ability to exercise or reach up and get a plate that's high up or to prevent yourself from falling if you trip because of your hip. So lots of symptoms that we have to manage, but we want to also keep our eye on what do I have to think of long term. Heart disease is the number one cause of death postmenopausally. In fact, we're at 2 to 3 times the risk. So we really got to think about heart health in this life transition. Osteoporosis. 50% of women in menopause have osteoporosis. So we've got to get a DEXA scan. So if you haven't had one and you're in that menopausal stage, super important to get that done. Just at least to get a baseline so you know what to gauge off of. Cognitive decline and dementia, cancers, and recurrent UTIs are even really common. And this is because we talked about the drop in estrogen in menopause. Well, low estrogen in the vaginal microbiome and tissue creates more of an alkaline versus acidic environment. So now we are giving that opportunity for bacteria to grow and overgrow, creating more UTIs. What about metabolically? During the menopausal transition, so during perimenopause, this does not seem fair at all, does it? We're losing half a pound of lean mass and we're gaining a pound of fat mass every year. Just because. Just because we become less metabolically flexible, we become more insulin resistant, and this is hormonally driven. Postmenopause, we are absolutely more metabolically inflexible. We're unable to effectively switch from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner because we have higher insulin levels. Insulin is a fat storage hormone if we're not using it to bring that glucose into the cells. In fact, we're 2 to 3 times more likely to be insulin resistant. I had that happen to me. I'm postmenopause, probably 5 years out, and did my blood work. I'm pre-diabetic. Where did that come from? For me personally, I did some more digging because I'm like, that's me. I have to put my investigation hat on. I'm like, well, why? What's going on? What's happening? What's brewing beneath the surface? For me, it was toxins. I was full of mold. And so I went on a mold detox and lost the weight and lost the pre-diabetes label. So there's always, it doesn't mean that that's the case for everybody, but there's something that's triggering these shifts. So the good news is we can be investigators, we can do experimentation, we can test, we can find out why this is going on. Okay, it's all a matter of like what you want to do. So it's, we all come into this transition differently. Like, what are we okay with? What are we not okay with? What do we really want to be when we grow up, is what I like to call it. We have that fat distribution shift. So instead of, in fact, 5 times the risk of shift towards that midsection. I love this image because we go from that nice hourglass shape pre-menopause to the shot glass in menopause. It's just like, where did my waist go? And it is just crazy how this happens. But again, this is hormonally driven. This is what happens, but doesn't need to be this extreme. No, it's just a matter of what you prepare, what you provide for yourself, what you prefer to do for yourself. There's always answers and solutions out there. The other thing that happens is estrogen not only affects our metabolic functioning and our hormonal functioning, but it has a hunger suppressing effect. So when we don't have the estrogen postmenopause and late menopausal transition, we are going to have a lower metabolism. In fact, up to 300 calories lower metabolism. But we also have more hunger because it's not suppressing our hunger because we don't have the estrogen. So we have a lower metabolism, we have a higher hunger. No wonder we're gaining weight just because of the estrogen shift. So we know we have to, sometimes I use the word hack the system, because we know that our bodies are changing, but we can be smarter than what the body is doing. We just have to know why and know what to do differently. All right, so what are the top three natural strategies? Number one, we've got to get back to whole foods and in a balanced nutritional way. So every meal, we need to get protein, fat, and fiber. And those are your blood sugar stabilizers. So they are going to help you manage that whole glycemic balance, that insulin resistance, and also sustain you. Because if you've got those stabilizers, you're going to feel more satisfied for a lot longer versus if we talked about the hormonal roller coaster and perimenopause. If you're eating primarily carbohydrate and everything else is low, you're also going to be on that blood sugar roller coaster. And so every time you dip down, you're not going to feel great. You're going to feel really tired and you're going to crave those carbs and sugars because physiologically you need it to get you back up. So this is just a simplified form in regards to, 25, 45% coming from healthy fats. Those things like avocado oil for cooking, extra virgin olive oil to drizzle on when you're done, avocado, nuts and seeds, excellent every single day. Smash fish, that's your salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, and herring. If you do 3 times a week, you don't even really need to take a fish oil supplement. Now, depending on what else you have going on medically. Clean proteins, at least 15%, if not up to 25%. And for most women, it's somewhere between 25, 30 grams per meal. We really need to distribute it out. That's the biggest blood sugar stabilizer. So really clean, and I focus more on like grass-fed, wild-caught, pastured, more so than organic, because organic can still have inflammatory grains, even though they're organic. So really thinking about where is your food coming from? And then almost half of your plate is coming from the fibrous plants. Very diverse, very colorful. Think about 3 times more non-starchy vegetables than your fruits, because fruit is nature's candy. Legumes, whole grains only have one ingredient, okay? A pasta, a bread, a cracker. The way to remember that is there is no pasta bush, there is no bread tree. So it is processed in a manufacturing plant. So it has to be a whole grain that came from a plant. And with this, we have so many processed foods out there that, in fact, 60% of our diet is coming from ultra processed foods. And it's basically engineered to trigger our reward centers. So it's not our fault when we eat those foods. We wonder why we get caught in this vicious cycle. I can't stop. I want more and more and more. Well, they were engineered that way. So we just have to get ourselves back to whole, real food. Plus, when you eat matters. So the nutritional timing is going to impact metabolic health. Our insulin receptivity, our digestion, our metabolism much greater in the first half of the day. So we really need to flip a lot of what we are doing because I have a lot of women who are trying to lose weight, and what do? We skip, skimp, skip, skimp, and then we get home from work or we finish our day and we're like, I'm famished. So we backload all night long because we are so hungry from skipping and skipping during the day. That's when our body needs it. And oftentimes I'll hear people say, well, yeah, if I have a breakfast, then I'm hungry all day. Yeah, because your body needs it and it can handle it. So we really need to think about shifting our window of eating earlier, fasting at least 12 hours overnight. Now, I'm not a big advocate of, I like 8 hours of eating and then, maybe 16 of fasting. I think anything more than that, we really risk getting all of our nutrients in a smaller window than 8. I do like the 3 meals a day, because every time you eat, you're going to trigger that blood sugar insulin response. You're going to make your digestion go to work. So give yourself a little bit of a break. Really try to make your lunch your biggest meal because that's when your body can handle it best. And dinner lighter and earlier, as early as you can go. Because again, metabolically, we're not set up to tolerate it that well. They've done a lot of studies and they've seen that when we're backloading our calories, we're eating later, we're eating bigger, like that's our main meal. We're not losing weight and we're more insulin resistant. So we really kind of have to think about when we're eating and when we're fasting. Second, sleep. Sleep is so, so important. This is when we rest, recover, neutralize the stresses of the day. We detoxify. Everything is more anabolic versus catabolic. And I actually heard a practitioner say this, and I stole it because I thought it was brilliant. We as women in this transition and stage in life need to sleep like an adult, not an adolescent. We have to follow these rules to really get the best sleep opportunity. So the duration, there is a U-curve risk, 7 to 9. Anything less, we're at higher risk of insulin resistance, metabolic imbalance, weight gain, inflammation. Same thing on the other side. If we're sleeping 10 hours or more, the same thing. Women, we're less stress resilient. This is included. So especially women, we're more prone on both ends. Men tend to be a little bit more prone to what I just mentioned in regards to the health risks when they don't sleep enough. But the consistency is also important because if we're going to bed at 10 every night during the week, but then on the weekend we stay up until 2, that's sleeping like an adolescent, number one. But that's also called um, social jet lag. And it's just as detrimental to our circadian rhythm and our metabolic functioning as true jet lag. So we really need to be consistent, plus or minus an hour on either end, all 7 days of the week. Timing, 10 to 8. So really trying to get to bed before midnight because we go through different phases or stages of sleep. And our deep sleep is more predominant in the first half of the night before midnight. That's when you're physically repairing. That's when you're building those anabolic hormones to help you do everything that our body is trying to work against. Your REM, your dream sleep, so your cognitive repair is happening closer to the time that you're waking up. So we really need to kind of think about the timing, the duration, the consistency, and then what's the environment? We need to keep it cool, dark, and free of electronics. Well, heck, a lot of us are dealing with night sweat, so the cool doesn't bother us, but a lot of time our significant other is like, hold on, it's freezing in here. But we ideally want to be at like 65 is the optimal temperature for sleep and dark to the point where you shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face if you were to put it up. Now we have to be safe. Like if you do get up in the middle of the night, you don't want to trip and stub a toe or break something. So maybe you get an eye mask so that you could pull that up if you need to have a little bit of a night light on to get to the bathroom safely. So again, think about how can you keep it as dark as possible and safe, keep it as cool as possible, and then free of electronics, especially if you are struggling with the sleep. Third is exercise. We've got to move because we know we're becoming less metabolically flexible, we're more insulin resistant, and we're gaining weight. So we've got to move. In fact, sedentary is the like sitting is the next smoking. That's how difficult it is on our health. And the more recent stats that I saw is that we're about 7.7 hours of sedentary activity during the day. So even though we might go and do an awesome workout, what do we do the rest of the day? We got to check in. We got to check in to see what we're doing. So cardio is important and resistance training is critical. So even with the cardio, that is, you don't need a lot and you can even do it in little segments. Like you could do 10 and 10 if that's easier for your schedule. The intensity is more important than the duration for metabolic flexibility and insulin sensitivity. So that might be like your high intensity interval workout where you go all out and then you recover. You go all out and then you recover. Resistance training, critical because we're gaining fat and we're losing muscle. So we've got to build the muscle in the gym and then we need to feed it with the protein. Ideally, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, 70% 1 rep max. Now that's pretty scientific. Bottom line is you gotta push the weight. And I have a lot of women who are using very light weights. They're afraid they're gonna bulk up. We can't. We don't have the hormones of testosterone to do that like men do. But we have to push the weight. We need to pay attention. Am I truly fatigued? Like I can't lift it one more time. That's where we need to be. We don't want to just, oh, I got 12. I'm done. So we have to pay attention to the body. Was that pushing? Was that stressing? the muscles? Was that stressing the body? Then we got to think about that general activity. So the less sitting, because the studies and the research out there has looked at, even though we have an amazing structured workout plan like this, if we are sitting, especially TV watching many hours during the day, we're almost negating the benefits of the structured exercise that we just did. Pretty alarming. So we do need to this is where I really feel trackers are critical. Like, let's see what we're doing because we do tend to overestimate our activity and underestimate our food. That's just human nature. So let's check in. Let's see what we're doing because there is an inverse relationship with the number of steps per day and our risk for insulin resistance. So really just building up, see where you are, see where your baseline is, and then add 1,000 a week to just get maybe 6,000 more than your baseline to get more of an impact. But this is different for everybody. The mind body activities are also critical for that stress resiliency, which we're not very good at in this stage. All right, so that's a lot of background in regards to a day in the life of perimenopause and menopause, hormonally, metabolically, just three quick tips that you can get started with. And then I want to let you know about my 12-week program because I'm so passionate about this population. I've been practicing for over 30 years, and most of my clientele has been this midlife woman. But I'll be honest, it wasn't until I personally entered that same phase where like, holy cow, this is real. This is, something that is feels like the switch just went on. And like, what happened? I just woke up and things were completely different and not getting answers from our healthcare practitioners. So this is where I really want to create that space where women are heard, women are supported, women are getting answers, they're getting solutions, and we're celebrating our small wins. Small, big, however big they are. So this is a 12-week program and it's very comprehensive. So I want to talk through what it involves. And one is functional lab testing. So I'll share on the next slide everything you're going to get. So this is a blood test. Now, if you're in Rhode Island, New Jersey, or New York, there are state laws where we can't do that testing. So you would get reimbursed for the testing itself. And then I would give you the list, and hopefully your practitioner would be willing to order those for you. There's going to be two one-on-one sessions with myself. So one when you get your labs back so that we can personalize a plan for you. And then towards the end of the 12 weeks, how did things go for you? What did you learn? What did you try? What worked? What didn't? What's the best next steps? You're going to get 12 weekly on-demand modules, educational modules. So we've got a whole team of professionals that are going to talk about a variety of topics. I'll share with you the topic list. And they're around 30 minutes, give or take. So we try to keep them short, but you can certainly come and go as you go, right? Because they're on demand. So you don't have to do it all in one sitting. Bi-monthly group sessions. So this is where our group support comes in. So two 30-minute live sessions a month over the 12 weeks. One will be more Q&A in regards to, okay, you've gone through these modules. What did you learn? What did you take away? What questions do you have? What have you tried? What worked? What didn't work? Really have a deep conversation with the group because only 10 women are going to join every month. So really want to keep that exclusive group of women in each cohort. So it's small enough that you can really feel safe and you can create a lot of very robust relationships. And then one will be education on the group sessions. The community forum. So not only will you have those group sessions, and they'll be recorded in case you can't join us that evening, but then we'll have the community forum. So that's a 24/7 access. So you can throw in your questions, throw in your wins, throw in your tips and tricks that you've tried and done yourself. But this is where we really support each other every step of the way. Every week, you're going to get weekly emails with additional resources and tools, encouragement, promotions, lots of great promotions like an exercise workout, some really motivating messages from other practitioners. You're going to get 25% off any supplements that would be beneficial for you based on your labs and what you're dealing with health-wise, and then discounts on additional functional testing if that makes sense for you as well. Here's the labs. So this will be looking at metabolic functions. We're going to look at your insulin. We're going to look at your C-peptide, which is really looking at how well is that pancreas working. And then hemoglobin A1C, which I call your 3-month lie detector test of what your blood sugar has been doing. You're going to get that full thyroid panel that we talked about with the antibodies. You're going to get your sex hormone. So DHEA is your anti-aging hormone. It's the precursor to testosterone and estrogen. So it supports your body composition, your immunity, your mood, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. You'll get basic lipids, and then you're going to get an advanced lipid panel. So the advanced lipid panel, because we know heart disease is our #1 health risk in menopause. So not only do we want to look at the basic lipids, I call that more of your quantitative. We want to look at qualitative. So there's different sizes and different numbers of LDL lousy particles or HDL happy particles. So that matters in regards to what is our risk of those particles penetrating that arterial wall, creating plaque and inflammation. How much are your HDLs taking out the garbage? The metabolic panel is looking at liver and kidney function, electrolytes, proteins. We're going to look at vitamin D and magnesium, which are the two most deficient vitamins and minerals out there. Inflammatory and methylation markers. Methylation is super important for detox, estrogen metabolism, heart health, brain health. So we want to make sure that you're set up for success. Here's the weekly on-demand educational modules. We'll start with nutrition game changers, talk about beverages and supplements. We'll look at weight loss resistance, sleep and stress resiliency, mental health support, movement that matters, the truth about HRT, hormone replacement. What do you want to know about that? Understanding metabolic dysfunction, midlife medical red flags, so a lot of those health risks in menopause, pelvic floor health and pain-free intimacy, everyday hormone disruptors, and how do you detox from that? This is the group of professionals that are joining us in regards to the modules, and then they'll also be coming back in to do some of the cohort education in the group sessions. So we've got the lab testing, you've got the one-on-one consultations for personalization, you've got the educational modules, you have the group calls for group support. You're not alone. We women, we need a community because a lot of times in our small space, like in our homes, our family doesn't understand. Sometimes our friends and colleagues don't understand if they're not going through the same thing we are. So knowing that you're not alone. The group forum, weekly resources, discounts, and bonuses. It's 3 payments of $299. So it's spread out over the 3 months. So really, this is a program if you are in perimenopause or menopause, if you are experiencing frustrating symptoms, if you're tired of being dismissed or told this is normal, waiting to reduce long-term risks, or wanting, not waiting, but you want to reduce your long-term risk. So you're thinking forward because we do tend to live longer than men, but we don't necessarily live healthier than men. So let's set ourselves up for success. I'm a true advocate of why not live every day to its fullest until we don't. Ready to understand, heal, and take control, looking for real solutions. There's no quick fixes. There's no one size fits all. It's all very unique to you. And you just want to feel like yourself again. We want to get our body back. We want to get our mind back. I've been there. I know exactly what that feels like. And it's frustrating. It's like, okay, I do all of these wonderful things. What happened? There's reasons. And we're going to get to those reasons. So to register, you can go to my website, which is lockhart-wellness.com and then /menopause. That'll bring you to a page that gives you a lot of the detail that we just went over. And then the registration link is at the bottom. If you have questions, maybe you're still wondering, is this right for me? Or would one-on-one maybe be better? Every woman is different. We can talk it through. So you can schedule a free discovery call with me. So you just need to email me, Cindy@lockhart-wellness.com. Happy to have a conversation and decide what's the best next stage. And even if, maybe it's not you that feel like, gosh, I'm dealing with a lot of these things. This is perfect. I need to engage. You might already be thinking of some friends or family members or colleagues that are like, yes, this person could use it. I encourage you to share because there's just not enough of this out there to help women like us navigate this major life transition and really set us up for success long term. And with that, we have got questions. So I don't see that anything has come through yet, but go ahead in through chat. I would love to open it up, or even if you want to raise your hand and I can unmute you as well if you prefer to talk. So whichever you prefer, if you want to go through the chat or you want to ask your question live. So all questions count. Yes, Lori, hold on. Let me see if I can unmute you. Okay. I think I asked to unmute. Does it allow, can you unmute on your side? I'm going to allow, oh, here we go. Now you should be able to unmute. Are you able to unmute? So, Christine, I see, do you offer HRT? So, I don't personally offer HRT since I am a functional nutritionist, but we have Dr. Tiffany Mullen, who is one of our experts. So, she's the one who will be talking about HRT. And she has a virtual functional medicine practice that covers like 36 of our states. So, that is an option. She has a promotion that she'll be offering the participants who are coming through the program to get on HRT and have the physician monitoring of that. So indirectly, yes. And then Valerie, due to early stage breast cancer, you're on tamoxifen, estrogen suppressor. So did a quick dive in menopause and HRT isn't an option. Is this type of program? Yes, absolutely. So it doesn't matter where you are because tamoxifen itself can be really hard on the joints. So we really want to set your joints up for success. Um, and so there are some things that you wouldn't be able to do. Like you wouldn't want to do a whole lot of soy, which soy is really good for a lot of women going through this life transition, but being on tamoxifen, we're trying to suppress her estrogen, so you wouldn't want to give any type of plant estrogen. So that's kind of one of the things that would be individualized to you. So absolutely, absolutely. Plus, we want to set you up for success to keep the recurrence risk down so that you never hear that diagnosis again. Lori, there we go. On the exercise slide, there was a statement about 70% something I don't understand. Would you explain further? Hang on, let me go back to the exercise slide. Oh, yeah. So 70% 1 rep max. So, like I said, that's a little more technical. So, kind of if you were to do, and this would not be me, this would be Rena. Rena is our fitness professional. But you, like, if you were to lift a weight, like say you were doing a chest press, like what is the weight that you can only do one time? Like that's, weight. So then you would take 70% of that 1 rep max, and you would want to be able to do 3 sets of 8 to 12. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's we as women don't typically do the 1 rep max. A lot of men or bodybuilders will do like really heavy lifting, or hey, I'm only going to lift it once because I can't lift it anymore. And that can be beneficial for muscle building, but we also have to think about our joints and our bones and like what is going to be safer. So hopefully that made sense, Lori. Great question. Okay, let me go back to this. Recently did some labs with you. So how would that work for me? Would I get a discount or could I do other labs like mold testing? That's a great question. I would totally be open to that. Yeah, if we saw that we did a lot of those labs, we could absolutely be flexible. I love that. Yeah, I'm completely open. Like I said, that's what's the glory about this program because it's very individualized and personalized within a group. We get the best of both worlds. So yes. Let's see. Would this program help me build an exercise program that's right for me? So that not necessarily going to be in a personalized exercise plan. Like you'll get 10 exercise like Rena will be doing a promo, like kind of like a bonus video on like 10 of the top exercises for women going through perimenopause, menopause, personalization that I'll provide resources in that. And if that's, and I don't know, Lori, if that's still you asking that question, um, and if it is, feel free to just email me. Yes, it is. Thank you, Lori. Because there is like another one of my physical therapy colleagues and friends, Brad, has a team of trainers that he manages through a company called Future. So I just had this in the newsletter, if you do get my newsletter, where this month they have free access. So you can opt in to get a trainer to create a program for you, and this is all done virtually. So that I would definitely take advantage of that if you're wanting a little bit more personalized one-on-one exercise because gosh, that is an amazing offer. And there's no strings attached. Once you finish your month, if you want to continue on, then you would start paying. But if you don't, you don't. You just signed up for the news. Just just so that you remind me, send me a message if you would, Lori, and then I'll send you the link to the newsletter because everything is in there and the direct link to go ahead and get started with that. Great questions. Any other questions? All right, so we do have the registration is underway for the October cohort. So it does start on Sunday, October 5th. There's only 10 spots available. So I hope that, if you are interested, go ahead and opt in. Otherwise, the next one will be starting in November. So that one will start November 2nd. So if you are interested, let me know. Maybe it's for a different month to start. So you can message me or also sign up for my newsletter because I'm always going to have the information in there. So then you just want to make sure you're signing up for the right cohort that works for you. We're going to take a little break in December just because of all the holidays, and we'll start back up in January. Oop. So let's see, a few more things came on. Heidi, nice. This link helps figure out the 70% max. Good. You are so resourceful. Love that, Heidi. Yeah, so if and think for sure Lori, you were asking, and then if anyone else was curious, that's a great link, Heidi, just to share. So then just sign up. Okay, so Christine, how long have you been doing this program? So this will be the first cohort. So like I said, I've been working with women in these phases of life for over 30 years, but it's just now I'm like, all right, we need to have a formal program where there is a cohort of women where it's not just the one-on-one. You've got the group support. You've got so much more that is just formalized and structured in a way that I think we're going to see a lot more success coming in that way. So the first one will be in October. So if I start in October, we could skip December. So it'd be October, November, January. No, so we will, great question too, Heidi. So we will actually, it'll get through no or December. So December for the October cohort, like the last week is the week of Christmas, but we'll have our group sessions the first and the third week. So we won't be competing with Christmas. So it's just the last educational module, which is on demand. So you can watch that at your leisure on that month. So it really won't bump into the conflict with the holidays. Like you'll finish out your 12 weeks on the week of Christmas. Excellent question. Yes, I took a lot of time to go through the calendar to make sure that we were not getting kind of mixed into Thanksgiving or Christmas. So with the group sessions in particular, because everything else will really be kind of what you want to do when you want to do on it. But the labs will be the first thing. So when you do join, like October 5th, you're going to have a lab requisition in your portal for the program. So you'll have like a whole system in Healthy, which is my EHR system. And so that's where I will upload the lab rec because I want you to go get those as soon as you can so that we can start personalizing your program as soon as we can. So that'll be our first thing. But we'll have like that's all, like I said, you're going to have so much information released for you to support you along the journey and then also to give you added support encouragement too. Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, if you have any other questions, I'll keep taking a peek at the chat in case you have another question. But otherwise, I thank you for joining me tonight and look forward to hopefully seeing you in one of the cohorts coming up. And like I said, feel free to share with any other women that you feel could benefit and reach out if you want to have a little discovery call, talk a little bit more, or if you want to sign up for the newsletter too, which lots of good information in there. That will be off of my website. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Have a great night. Oh, thank you. So sending out the recording. So before you all take off, yes, I am going to send you all the recording in the morning. So I just have to get it uploaded to YouTube and then I'll share the link. So yes, you are going to get the recording tomorrow morning. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, ladies, have an awesome night.